Hello and welcome back to Lights Camera Conversation. I am Lottie.
And I'm David.
And this week we're going to talk about, drumroll please, AI or artificial intelligence. If you don't know what AI is, but I'm sure you do. Do you know what AI is?
Well, you've just explained it very well, so yeah, I am aware.
You could just ask ChatGPT and it will describe to you itself, I guess.
Don't know, I haven't tried that.
It's an interesting topic, isn't it? Because it's very much the rage at the moment, and I feel like AI is that area that people are like, want to talk about it, but they don't want to talk about it because everyone's kind of freaking out about the future.
It's going to take everyone's jobs.
Take everyone's jobs, control everything, run the world, and humans will become slaves.
Yes.
To the machines. Now then.
Well, that's just the Matrix then, isn't it?
I guess so, but are they machines? This is the question.
Sentinels are machines, aren't they, in the Matrix?
I don't know. I mean, it's interesting because I was listening to a podcast recently, and the guy on it is Mo Gaudat, who used to be the chief officer at Google X, and he talked about AI, and he's written this book called Scary Smart, which I've downloaded, and he said the first 5 chapters are absolutely terrifying, and then once you've got over that, so obviously intrigue, great hook to get the book, so I was like, yes, I will go and download that and have a little listen. But he was saying that we have to stop thinking of AI and referring to AI as machines, because they're not machines. They are autonomous beings. They think for themselves just like humans do, but they can think a million times quicker than us. And he said in 8 years, AI, the equivalent will be like us referring to Albert Einstein of a brain of a fly.
Wow, that's quite a jump.
Yeah. What do you think about that?
Yes, that's quite mind-blowing. I've got a stat here for you that might kind of back up that. So I should have actually put where it's come from, but apparently the AI market is projected to reach a staggering $407 billion by 2027, experience substantial growth from its estimated $86 billion in 2022.
Yeah.
So that's...
It's the future of everything.
Yeah.
It very much is the future of everything, of where it's all going. And he talked about the humans being the parents and the AI being the children. And he was like, we have to teach it. Like, you can't put rules in. It's not a machine where you can put rules in. He said you have to write policies and teach AI how it needs to be. So we, as the parents, need to show AI what it means to be human and a good human. And I think this is the challenge, isn't it, of humanity at the moment. You know, we look at things like social media and how toxic some of that stuff is at the moment, and just the whole culture around all of it. I mean, obviously, yes, we all use it. I use it. But to be fair, if I didn't have a business or run a business, I don't think I'd use it at all. It's kind of one of those. I mean, it's interesting for bits of information here and there, but the wraparound cultural stuff around it, some of it is just not good. And it's kind of like, where do we go? How are we going to shape this?
Exactly, yeah. But we've, for quite a while now, we've been trying to follow as much AI in creativity, I'd say.
Yeah.
For quite a while, we've been saying to each other and other people, it's better to be on board the train than standing at the side of the track and watching it fly by and getting left behind.
Yeah, you've got to lean into it, haven't you? Yeah. This new tech, you've got to lean into it. You've got to be at the front of it. And to be fair, if I was coming out of university now, I would totally be leaning into AI. I'd be getting an expert in all things AI and jobs, because it's all going to head in that direction.
Yeah.
Which would be quite interesting.
Yeah.
So how are we using AI then here? Like, what tools are we currently using then? Because we're using quite a few, aren't we? We're kind of talking to clients about its usage. Because, you know, it is brilliant. It does speed things up. It makes things cheaper, quicker productivity increase. So, I'm a big advocate for it. I'm all for it and definitely 100% leaning into it. I think it's got a scary side, but that's with anything new where there's change, and that's where we've just got to learn how to manage it, really.
Yeah, so in pre-production we've been using it for ChatGPT to help write certain things, as well as Google Gemini, which is Google's version of that. It's also been useful using 11 Labs for... Well, we started off using it as a temp voiceover thing, so as a guide track for us for more editing or animators to time animated shots to it. And that's advanced so much in the last maybe 6-9 months that sometimes we've used that for the actual main thing because it's been so convincing. It's even got the breaths in there.
It does sound more real, doesn't it?
Yeah. The only thing it does struggle with is like made up names.
Yeah.
And company names, which is a problem because in a lot of scripts the company name is mentioned or their product several times, and if it can't say that, then sometimes it is unusable. But it does make you feel bad that voiceover artists from their side it's going to be less. They're going to use less and less.
Depends what it's for, doesn't it? Because we're still very much using it where clearly we need to evoke human emotion. Where we're telling stories, we're using it more for factual content, a lot of health and safety stuff or process stuff or training stuff, where it's clearly quite factual. It's, engaging to a degree, but it's more educational. I mean, I think that sort of stuff, it does work well. And the big advantage is the multilingual stuff, right? Because it can translate for you. You can get that checked by someone, locally in-house with that client just to sort of fact check it. And then, it's got all the different, how many languages is it up to now? 11 Labs, like 20 odd?
Yeah, the list just gets bigger all the time. And they're adding things like all the time. I've noticed the professional voiceover artists are cloning their official voices onto it.
Yeah.
So you can use that. So it's that cloned voice is recorded in a professional way, proper mics in a studio, rather than someone just creating it or just recording something on their phone. That's a huge difference in some of the ones that we've been using lately.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because we used it originally just to, as you say, just to kind of block, if we were building an animation and for timing purposes, we needed to sort of block, a voice and then kind of swap in with the real thing. But we've used it more, haven't we? And then we used it to generate some stock stuff recently, didn't we, on a project where we were kind of telling quite a specific health and safety based story, and we needed certain shots to show a certain type of thing, and that's why what do we use?
I believe that was Adobe Firefly. Again, it's a text to image generation. Yeah, it takes quite a few goes to type in the exact description, but it's useful if it's getting close. You can say, "Oh, this is very good. Can you just tweak this, tweak that?" And it's close enough, and I think because I've used it quite a lot lately, you can straight away tell that it is a AI thing. But like you said, it depends on the use of what the viewer is. This particular project, it's meant to be a bit conceptual, so it kind of works for it. Yet if you're using that for maybe health and safety induction, people would straight away going, something odd about that. It's much better to actually go to a site and set that scene up or film the real colleagues doing that sort of thing.
That's it. I think if you need a certain level of bespoke element personalisation, that's where you obviously need original content capture. But for the sort of some of the generic stuff, it can fill in kind of quite well there. Again, if you're combining it with some storytelling and creativity, again, it's all about how you use it, isn't it? And how you kind of pull it together. Because anyone can go on there and use the tools, but it's, as a creative, it's how you're trying to sort of tell that story.
It's going back to audio. There's something we've been using for a long time that I didn't really think was AI, but it kind of is. Like it's the audio music remix, where you can change the length of a track to fit exactly of what your edit is. Because we used to have to get any old track, royalty-free one. If your edit's 2 minutes, you got a 3-minute track. You got to just fade it down somewhere random or try and listen and cut to the beat. But now it's just like, remix in a couple seconds, and it's exactly the way you need it. Also, Adobe does in Premiere Pro is the enhance audio, so you can, if your audio is not that great, it can enhance it. We've filmed interviews on demolition sites where there's just excavators and diggers and all that sort of noise going on, and you can get rid of pretty most of that sound, and it sounds super clear. We've always had the client going, "You sure this is going to be good?" I'm like, "Yeah, it'll be fine, don't worry," and it is. Just
yeah,
about.
it's amazing how it can do it. I mean, obviously, it's like with anything, you always want to try and capture it perfectly, don't you, in camera?
Yeah.
That's always the main thing that you want to do. But then it's using the enhancement tools just to sort of dial it up a level, make it sound more studio-like, you know, where, you know, you can kind of do that on sites like that where clearly getting clean sound is going to be difficult.
But that's what you just said. It's made it a lot easier because we can. This particular interview, it was like the site manager at this demolition, so we could have all this stuff going on in the background rather than going somewhere around the corner of the site, hidden really far away where you couldn't see any of that going on. So it has helped that sort of thing.
What about didn't we have a project recently where the photographer had supplied an image of the product and we needed to use that within the video, but the background, it had been framed really tight, hadn't it? So it worked for like a portrait, but actually landscape format for video, it didn't work. We do some image enhancement with that.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah, so they got some of their products. They had a professional photographer take some shots, and they had a very small background in their studio, which was fine for what they needed it for. But then they realised that we needed some shots to put at the end of the video. So yeah, they were like little like square images. And while we were 16:9 and we had to make it like 4K res, so in Photoshop just sort of enhanced background, drew it big, and it just copies what's the background was. In this case, it was just got sort of rubble and stone, concrete type background.
It just clones it, doesn't it?
Yeah, just kind of clones it, and you can't see the join.
I mean, it's amazing because I remember years ago going on like an Adobe Photoshop masterclass. Like this is like before I set up my business. It was a long time ago where they showed you how to do all of that manually. And this course was like 4 days long.
Oh my God.
I mean, you obviously didn't just learn that, but like maybe half a day was dedicated to that. And it would take quite a long time to kind of clone it properly. And it's, you know, it's kind of a click of a button now.
Yeah. There's a new thing that's going to be launched in Premiere Pro at some point soon. I've seen a few video clips of their kind of beta demo part of you'll be able to sort of click and drag over a certain part of a screen and just replace something that's on there. I think their example just showed someone opening a briefcase and then something was in it, but then they did the AI thing and said, put this in the briefcase. So when the guy opens the briefcase, it's something else completely different inside.
So I'm using it, it's quite interesting, as Fireflies, as a note taker as well. So I've had a few meetings that I haven't been able to join for whatever reason, but my AI version of me joins the meeting and takes the notes, and it transcribes the full meeting, who said what exactly verbatim, and then you can also get a kind of a high level summary of what was discussed, what were the actions, what were the timescales, what was agreed. I mean, it's pretty accurate. It's not 100% on each meeting, but it banks everything. So if you go back and you think, I always take quite a lot of notes anyway, because that's my way of kind of, you know, getting in my brain and understanding, but it's really handy to kind of go back and like, what exactly was said and agreed within that meeting. And that's been quite interesting.
Yeah, because I used it for this real world case. I actually used it recently because we did a meeting together. Then I did a separate one like a week or two later with one of our script writers.
Yeah.
And she was asking me these questions and suddenly went, I don't remember that part. And like, hang on a minute. There's some notes, and then I just read when I sent it to her and said, this is what we talked about. And then she had it up on her screen and went, oh yeah, this is amazing. Yeah, thanks so much. It's like she was in the meeting almost.
That's it. So it does work for those sorts of things. I mean, it's interesting, isn't it, to see the sort of shift of like how we're using it in business and how we're, you know, because obviously we operate with other businesses in terms of content, but what's sort of coming, do you know, like within the industry? So if we look kind of deeper at the sort of film industry and cinema, how is AI kind of pitching into that, and what are we going to see coming?
There's various things that we've had a few of us in the office have played around with, things like Sora and Midjourney, where again it's either text to image or text to video. Sora is one that I've not been able to get onto yet, but I've seen lots of examples, and Luma Labs. that, again, if you can put a photo in, a still, and describe what you want it to do, and it'll make the still into a live video images sort of thing. I've seen quite a few this past week of people taking stills from famous memes, and they just look like they were just always video, and they've done this weird combo. Well, it's got like 10 most famous memes and just made them actually morph into each other. That the guy in it, the girl in it would just literally turn their head or turn around, and they'd become a different meme, and the background would. It all looks a bit weird and mushy, but it's quite clever, and you can see within how many years that's going to get quite good in a scary way.
Because there's virtual actors as well, isn't there?
Yes, yeah. It's a Wonder Studio that we've had a play with it, where you kind of you can film on anything, your phone or normal camera. You just film a real person in a scene doing whatever, and then you put it into Wonder Studio, and you can replace that real person with a digital character. Alien, robot, cartoonish type character, whatever, yeah. Rather than someone animated from scratch, which has obviously been the long traditional way of animation. If you shoot the plate shot, you can think back of what's the earliest time like Roger Rabbit, where they'd shoot the plate shots and have to draw a hand draw over it. Now you can it's done in a couple of seconds.
Because some films have hired virtual actors, haven't they? As in, like, they're AI from the start, and they come with their own following, their own Instagram account.
Have they?
Everything.
Who's that?
Yeah.
What's that?
I read up on it. I can't remember the exact name, but because obviously if you think about celebrity and celebrity status, it's the fame, isn't it, that comes with that person. So what if, you've got AI kind of virtual actors, if they build a following and they come with relevant fame, then be used within the film.
I see what you mean, yeah. Well, that's like a bit like deep fakes. That's another thing as well. Of people have made videos with, people that are long dead, have got them to put their face on other things. Well, you see that's an issue with the news, isn't it? Like famous politicians and presidents and stuff. People just creating these videos of them saying and doing the stuff that's not them, but there's some part of the audience that's going to think that's real.
I mean, I was reading up on it. It was talking about, the use of, organising rushes, organising shots. What's the most appealing stuff, so they can kind of use content that's more aligned with like the audience's interest, particularly when using it for things like trailers. Where you've got to create a hook, and you're trying to tell a very short, 30, 45 second, 60 second kind of story. Kind of using it within that format, and then this idea of predictive storytelling as well. So again, it's what do the audiences like, and then building it on that. And again, it's interesting, isn't it, because AI uses the data that's there and what is available. So as filmmakers and creatives, you've got to think about, well, you've still got to create, right? You still got to be unique, because you've got to feed the machine, not the machine, the beings, but you know what I mean. You've got to kind of put some of the original stuff in there. So how do you think we can kind of stay original in all of this, and it not just become an amalgamation of everything that's just there on repeat in some way, shape or form, variation, repurposed version of version of version of version?
Well, that's quite deep. For something to just spring to mind, that it's sort of linked. We can come back round to this. Is recently I was fooled by some AI marketing for a film. It's A24 Civil War, which is a very ground-based film about some photojournalists who just doing kind of have to travel from New York to Washington with some of the military, but the marketing for posters and all that kind of just still art depicts all these cities in ruins and all this other stuff, which is not in the film at all. But it just makes it look a huge, bigger scale than it is. I thought you're going to see all that, but it's actually, you're just following literally ground level, cameras always with these few characters as they travel from town to town, getting to those big cities.
It's like that.
Yeah, well, they're using it. They're going to be using it a lot for sort of CG. And that's the thing, isn't it, in terms of like they can create very complex scenes now with composite expressions. in place, on the actors. So that,
Yeah.
and then obviously like deeply complicated scenes rather than having to do, massive set builds can sort of use AI to create these sort of CG scenes and then work from those.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of that's been happening for a long time of using AI to not simple, but save a lot of time on things like in Dune 2, the people have been on Arrakis for a long time all have blue eyes. So that's a lot of rotoscoping and making people's eyes look blue. But they kind of developed a bit of software of AI that just tracks anyone's eyes in the shot automatically and just makes them the right colour blue that they need. Where before that would have taken a team, frame by frame, making it blue.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
So how do we stay unique then in an ever-changing landscape with AI? And obviously we've got to kind of feed the content. So we've got to kind of come up with the ideas and the creative. Is AI going to be able to understand humans in the sense that we can come up with the humour and the nuances of things because we understand what it's like to be human culturally, and that's how we build creative marketing, creative films, creative content, because it's that relational sort of stuff that people can relate to. Is AI going to be able to do that, do you think?
The way things are going and how it's expanding, it feels like it will get there at some point. Whether that's 5, 10, 15, how many of the years ahead, but yeah.
And do you think AI will overtake us in terms of creativity? Or do you think we're going to work alongside it? Or are humans naturally just going to be more creative because we're human?
Yes, short answer.
Oh, we hope so.
Yeah, definitely hope so, yeah. You just make me think of films like Blade Runner and Terminator, but then more recently The Creator, which other around, the humans are more the baddies and the AI they just want to live in peace and make everyone have, a nice life.
I think, where it's been depicted in the past, it's sort of like, with iRobot, it's like, the machines are going to take over and, I don't really see it getting to that. I think it will be a case where we'll work alongside and actually AI will play a role where, human brains get to a point, they stop, they can't process vast quantities of data quickly, and that's where AI will kick in and kind of work alongside.
Yeah. Again, it's just hope, right? Yeah, it's just a tool like this microphone or that light there, whatever it is, a tool that you use for all stages of the creative process.
So we've got to stay unique, we've got to stay creating different kinds of content, coming up with ideas. Experimentation, I think, is massive. Like with creativity, you've got to kind of experiment all the time. Any final thoughts?
Yes, we've listed quite a few different sort of software and platforms that we've played with the last, maybe a year or so. We're going to keep doing that, keep using it where we can, and just stay on board the train and keep looking out the window of new things that are there.
That's it. You've got to lean in or you get left behind, right?
That's it, yeah.
So there you have it. That is this week's conversation on AI, all things artificial intelligence. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you've got any questions for us or want to get in touch, then feel free to reach out and tune in next time on Lights Camera Conversation.